Good morning, everybody. My name is Darlene and I have Parkinson's. This is not the video that I was planning on doing today. I was going to do a different video, but then something happened during the day today, and I just thought I would share that with you. Uh, you never know when you have Parkinson's, every day is different. You don't know how it's going to be or how the whole day is going to go. I'm also, you'll notice tonight sitting very still because I'm in a slowdown situation here. I haven't completely frozen up, but I am in a slowdown. Um, it's because my medicine was taken quite a while ago and it's starting to wear off. And I should be in my bed sleeping and I wouldn't maybe notice that it was wearing off, but that didn't happen. Anyway, what happened to me today? I I'll start by saying I've had the two best nights sleep that I've had in a very long time for the last two nights. Both nights I slept over 6 hours in a row without getting up, which is unheard of for me. We had gotten a new mattress and it seems to really be comfortable, I guess, and I have enjoyed sleeping. So I've had two very good nights' sleep and I was feeling really good today. I got up in the morning. I did my usual things. I did my exercise. I was trucking along just great. And then the afternoon came, and my daughter came over, and my husband and her went out to the store. And while they were gone, I was still doing things around the house. And then my medicine started to wear off, and then my body completely stopped. And when I say completely stopped, I mean my medicines had stopped working completely and I froze, which what happens is you'll see here my hands sort of stay in a very stationary position like this, and so therefore it's hard to do any work because your hands are kind of crippled up. My feet become very, very painful, and I've explained before how the toes on one foot will curl under, and there's a tendon that's on the top of your ankle, and it stands up in a very high ridge, and it's very rigid, and your legs don't move, and it's painful. So I managed to get myself back to my chair, get sitting in my chair, and everything else. But then this is where something different came about. Normally, when this happens, I know that as soon as it's time to take more medicine, that I will pass through that phase and I'll be doing okay. But today, when I was sitting there, I was by myself. There was nobody around to talk to, um, and I'm not used to that. My husband is generally here, and if not, then somebody is around and I can talk to them. But I was sitting in my chair, and it dawned on me as I was frozen so drastically that if there had been a fire alarm or something had happened where I had to move quickly, I wouldn't have been able to do it. And there wouldn't have been anybody, like, if I'd gotten into a wheelchair, there wouldn't have been anybody able to push me. And when I'm frozen, I won't be able to push myself. Um, Whereas normally, if I'm not frozen and I need to use the wheelchair or my A-linker, I can do it myself. But I was sitting here, and for the first time, it dawned on me that I was kind of helpless. And I didn't like that feeling whatsoever of being helpless. And I was very frightened. And that is also something that normally does not happen to me. I'm not normally frightened. And so I do understand that with Parkinson's, that anxiety, depression, um, things like that are a factor, but it has never caused me fear. Like I just know that it will pass and I'll be fine. But for some reason today, I didn't handle it as well as I would have liked. I just thought I would share that with you to say, it's a changing situation. We never know what the day is going to bring. My morning was so wonderful. My last 2 nights were so wonderful. And then I had that very horrible session for a few hours in the afternoon. And then my evening was just fine. So it's one of those things. And then here I went to bed, and if I am upset or if I'm thinking too much or whatever, suddenly I'm not able to get comfortable in the bed, and it doesn't look like it's going to be a very good night for sleeping. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe just by sharing it and talking about it right now, once I take my next dose of medicine, maybe I will. Well, actually, I don't get any more medicine now until morning time, except for my overnight. So, and they're slow acting. So I'll be taking some slow acting tablets. But once they get into my system, I should be able to lay down, and hopefully I'll be able to sleep. But while I was sitting here, I was looking out the window. It's dark, but I could hear the rain, and it was raining pretty good. And it reminded me of a time that, and it's a little story, of course, that I'm going to share with you, but it reminded me of a time where my grandmother, who was at the time, she would have been probably in her late 80s or early 90s, but probably late 80s. And I had gone to stay with her for a week. And we were there, and of course, we were trying to keep ourselves busy and whatnot, and we didn't have a car or anything that we could drive around. So if we wanted to go anywhere, we were walking, and which was fine. When the weather was lovely, it was no big deal. Well, we decided this one night that we were going to go out for supper to a restaurant called Banners, and it was not a far distance away, but a good enough for somebody who was in her late 80s. And at the time, I was well, so I had no problems with walking. And so off we went to Banners. We just took our time, and the weather was lovely and whatnot, but we hadn't looked at what the forecast was going to be. But anyway, we got to Banners, and we were in the restaurant, and we were having a nice dinner, and we heard the rain come on. And we went, "Ooh, it's raining pretty good out there." So I said, "Well, we'll stay and have dessert, and maybe by then it will have passed." No, it was still coming down pretty good. So we looked at each other, and I said, "Well, maybe we should take a taxi back up." And Grandma says, "Well, there's no need for that." She says, "It won't take us that long to walk." And I said to her, I said, "Well," I said, "Grandma, if you're game for it, I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen is we're going to get a little bit wet." But I said, "We'll be fine." So the two of us set out. Didn't have a raincoat, didn't have an umbrella, none of that. So the two of us headed out into the rain to walk home. Well, it was a downpour. And by the time we got to my grandmother's apartment, I looked over at her, and she had little running lines of water running from her hair down her face. The poor little thing was just completely drowned. But anyway, so we got in, and it was about 6 o'clock, and she just looked at me and she says, "Let's just get into our pajamas." So we each got ourselves all dried off and into our pajamas at 6 o'clock, and sat and had tea with each other in the evening. But I'll never forget, she was as game as anything. She was a spry person. For She lived many many years after that, and she was a spry person to the end, and was a thinker. But we've often laughed about the fact that here we were, two drowned rats out in the rain, just because we had wanted to go out for a bite to eat. Anyway, eating gets me into a lot of trouble. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that little story with you. I hope you all have a good evening, and I hope that I get a little bit of sleep later on. And we'll see you all tomorrow.